You're listening to the Lesson of the Day on the Learning English podcast. Welcome to the part of the show where we help you do more with our series, Let's Learn English.
Today, Anna is planning her new children's show with her producer, Amelia.
Washington, D.C. has 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, and autumn, or fall. My favorite season is summer because of summer vacation. Hey, that will be a great subject for my new work assignment, the children's show. I can teach what families in the U.S. do during summer vacation. Today, I am planning the show with Amelia. This is the first time we are working together. I hope we can work well together. Hi, Amelia.
Hi, Anna. So, what are we going to talk about on the first show?
I want to talk about summer vacation.
That will be fun. Are you going on vacation this summer?
No, this summer I am too busy.
That's too bad.
It's okay. I can go on vacation next summer. This show will be a lot of fun too.
We hear Amelia and Anna using going to in this lesson to talk about something they will do in the future. I think our listeners already know this verb form. But there are other phrases with going that may not be as familiar to everyone. Did you notice the way they used going on to talk about travel? Amelia asked,
"Are you going on vacation this summer?"
That is another way of asking, will you take a vacation this summer?
Yes, that looks like a phrasal verb. Anna uses it too when she says,
It's okay. I can go on vacation next summer.
And next, she uses another expression with vacation, take you on.
Hi there, and welcome to the show. Today, we are going to take you on a summer vacation.
As I understand that, she is saying we will go with her as she takes an imaginary summer vacation. In other situations, we use the phrase take you on to invite someone to go with us on a journey.
That sounds like a very nice invitation to go on a vacation with Anna. Just be careful. You don't want to say, I'd like to take you for a ride, because that is an idiom that means to mislead someone or lie to them.
Anna uses going in another way in the lesson. She talks about going to an amusement park. That is a place with many fun activities like roller coasters and games. There we talk about going on a ride.
At an amusement park, you go on rides and eat lots of fun food.
So to summarize, we can go on vacation and go on a ride. And we can take someone on a vacation or take them on a ride. This reminds me of the old Steppenwolf song, Magic Carpet Ride. Do you remember that one, Andrew?
Of course. Why don't you come with me, little girl, on a magic carpet ride?
Our listeners may remember the story about Aladdin and the magic lamp. A genie takes him on a ride on a flying carpet.
In the song, the magic carpet is the girl's imagination. Jill, all this talk about summer vacation makes me a little sad because summer has ended here and we are moving into fall.
But Andrew, there are so many fun things you can do in the fall or autumn. There are harvest festivals, leaf peeping.
Hold on a second there. Jill, I'm not sure our listeners know what leaf peeping means.
Then I'll refer them to a story our friend Donna Mateo did a few years ago. She said,
Leaf peeping is when people travel to see the beautiful colors of fall foliage. Foliage is another name for leaves, and fall is another word for autumn.
Peep is to take a quick look at something. Like you might peep inside a box to see what's inside.
In the eastern United States, people like to travel to the mountains and places like the states of New Hampshire, and Vermont to enjoy the beautiful colors of the leaves on the trees in the fall or autumn. Jill, have you ever noticed we only have one word for each of the other seasons, but we have two words for the season between summer and winter?
I really like the fall because it means the stores all have pumpkin spice flavored foods again.
Aha! So it's all about the food then. For our listeners, pumpkin spice is a flavoring that includes cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, allspice, and cloves. These days in the U.S., stores begin to fill their shelves with pumpkin spice flavored food in August. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, if we're bringing food into the conversation, we've got to talk about pumpkin pie. What's your favorite pie, Jill?
That's easy. Pecan pie. At our Thanksgiving dinner, we must have both pumpkin pie and pecan pie to make everybody happy.
Now, let's see if we can summarize with a little chant or series of sentences.
Oh boy, can I start?
Sure, go right ahead.
Ooh, that's another expression with go we can talk about. Listeners, try repeating after us to practice these expressions from the lesson. Here we go. I want to go on vacation. I want to go on a magic carpet ride.
You can go on vacation. You can go on a magic carpet ride.
Will you take me on a vacation? Will you take me on a magic carpet ride?
I'll take you on a vacation. I'll take you on a magic carpet ride.
I want to see the fall colors. I want to peep at the autumn leaves and drink pumpkin spice tea.
You can see the fall colors. You can peep at the autumn leaves. You can have your pumpkin spice tea, but it's plain old coffee for me.
Now we have an assignment for you. We'd like to know your answer to our questions. What is your favorite season? And what do you like to do during that season?
That's all for the lesson of the day today. And thanks for listening to the lesson of the day on the Learning English podcast.
Speak up.
IELTS listening time. Get ready to sharpen your listening skills with 4 authentic IELTS passages. These recordings feature native English speakers, just like you'd encounter in the real exam. As you listen, keep a pen handy. Your challenge is to jot down every new word you hear. Don't worry about catching everything the first time. The goal is to train your ear and expand your vocabulary. Pay attention to the context around new words. It'll help you guess their meanings. Ready? Let's dive in.
Listen to a discussion in an American history class.
Today, we're going to talk about a coin from early in the history of the United States. It was the first coin issued by the U.S. government, and it was issued soon after the government was established. Do you know when this was? Any idea? Come on, you must have some idea when this was. Yes, Sam?
Was it in the late 1700s?
That's right, Sam. This coin was issued in 1789. It was known by 2 names. It was known as both the Fugio coin and the Franklin coin. First of all, can you tell me why it was called the Fugio coin? Laura?
It was called the Fugio coin because it had the word Fugio on the front of the coin. Fugio is a Latin word that means I fly.
That's right, Laura. And this coin was also called the Franklin coin. Why was it called the Franklin coin? It was because Benjamin Franklin was on it, wasn't it?
No, it was called the Franklin coin because Franklin was given credit for the wording on the coin.
That's right. Now, this is the coin we're talking about. Let's look at the front of the coin. Can you describe the front for me, Sam?
The front of the coin has a sundial in the middle with the sun shining down on the sundial.
Yes, both a sun and a sundial are there. And what else?
Well, there's a date along one side, and there seems to be some wording at the bottom.
Sam needs some help. Who can help Sam answer the question? Yes, Doug?
The wording along the bottom is mind your business. This coin's called the Franklin coin because Benjamin Franklin was given credit for the wording.
Now let's talk about the other side of the coin. Let me describe the front of the coin for you. Oh, excuse me. Did I say front? I meant back. On the back of the coin, there's a large circle made up of 13 linked circles. And in the middle of the circle are the words, "We are one." Do you understand what these words mean?
I think so, particularly with the words, "We are one." This design on the back of the coin symbolizes the 13 original colonies linked into one country.
That's a very appropriate idea for the first coin issued by the United States after the country won its independence. Now that's all for today. However, I'd like to suggest that some of you might want to be somewhat more prepared for the next class. And just to check on whether or not you're prepared, there just might be a quiz.
Listen to a lecture in a zoology class.
Okay, calm down, please. It's time to get started. You can continue your chit-chat after class. Our topic for today is hibernation. When it begins getting cold in the north as winter approaches, different types of animals deal with the approach of the cold weather in different ways. Some animals move south to warmer weather, some animals increase their activity to stay warm, and other animals hibernate during the cold weather. So today, we'll be discussing this third category of animals, the animals that hibernate. Now, these are the animals like groundhogs and bears that go into a state of unconsciousness or semi-consciousness during the cold winter months. The first animal we'll look at is the groundhog. The groundhog's one of the best-known hibernators. It goes into its burrow 4 or 5 feet underground sometime in the fall, and it doesn't come out until spring. A groundhog stays in its underground burrow for the entire winter without coming out. Now, because the groundhog hibernates so completely, it's the groundhog that has achieved prominence in our folklore as the animal that's responsible for determining whether or not winter's over and it's safe to come out of hibernation. You see, according to folklore, the groundhog will come out of the burrow where it's hibernating on Groundhog Day in February. If winter's over, the groundhog will remain out of its burrow. But if winter's going to last for a while longer, the groundhog will scurry back into its burrow. Yes, Amanda, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Does the groundhog have a good record? You know, about predicting whether winter's over?
No, not really. It's just a folktale, and the groundhog isn't batting much more than 50-50. Now, back to the discussion of hibernation, with a little more emphasis on its scientific nature. We've discussed the groundhog, which hibernates throughout the cold weather. Other animals that hibernate in a similar fashion are bats and squirrels. Now we'll look at the bear, which hibernates in a different manner. You see, bears don't hibernate as completely as groundhogs, bats, or squirrels. In the southern half of the United States, bears don't hibernate at all because the weather doesn't get cold enough for them to hibernate. In the northern half of the United States, bears may not stay in hibernation for the entire winter. They may come out of their hibernation during the winter and wander about before returning to hibernation. Yes, Tom, what's your question?
Well, Professor, I'm not exactly sure what hibernation is. I mean, how is hibernation different from sleep?
That's a good question, Tom. One that I'm a little late in clarifying. Hibernation is different from sleep, and these differences between sleep and hibernation are seen in body temperature and heart rate. You see, the main characteristics of hibernation, which are very different from sleep, are that body temperature and heart rate decrease significantly. When an animal comes out of hibernation, the heart rate and body temperature increase to the levels normal during waking hours. During the period when a large animal, such as a bear, is coming out of hibernation, the animal's entire body does not warm at once. The area around the heart warms up first. As the heart warms up, it begins beating at its normal rate, and it's then able to pump blood around the rest of the body and heat up the rest of the body. These are the main points that we need to cover about hibernation. Now we'll take a short break before moving on to the next subject.
Listen to a lecture in a biology class.
Today, I'll be talking about the concept of tropism as it relates to plants. Tropism, for those of you who don't know, refers to a bending of a plant or a part of a plant in response to an outside stimulus. There are three important kinds of tropism. They are phototropism, geotropism, and hydrotropism. In each of these kinds of tropism, a plant or a part of a plant bends in response to a different kind of outside stimulus. First, we'll discuss phototropism. The outside stimulus in phototropism is light. When a plant is affected by phototropism, it grows in the direction of a light source, such as the sun. The second kind of tropism is geotropism. In geotropism, the outside stimulus is gravity. In a plant affected by geotropism, the affected part of the plant grows directly downward because of the pull of gravity. When a plant's affected by geotropism, it's often the root structure that's affected. Okay, the final kind of tropism I'll discuss today is hydrotropism. When hydrotropism affects a plant, this means that the plant is drawn toward water. A plant under the effect of hydrotropism will grow in the direction of its water source.
Listen to a lecture in an archaeology class.
Today, we're going to be talking about fossils. A basic definition of fossils is that they are the remains of plants and animals that have turned to stone. And today, we're going to be talking about how animals become fossils. The process begins when a living being dies. After an animal dies, its soft tissues break down. When the soft tissues have decomposed, only the hard parts of the body, such as the bones and teeth, remain. Over a long period of time, the hard tissue becomes buried under layers of sediment. As more layers of sediment cover the hard tissue, it becomes buried more and more deeply. When the bones are buried deep in the earth, they come into contact with groundwater, and a change begins to occur. Minerals from the groundwater seep into the bones, and over long periods of time, the minerals eventually replace the bones. This is the actual step when fossilization occurs, when minerals from the groundwater have replaced the actual hard tissue from the original body. The buried fossilized remains, which are buried deep within the earth, may then make their way back to the surface. As the earth moves, the remains are pushed around. If they get closer to the surface where they can be seen, or get near enough to the surface where they can be dug out.
Listen to a discussion by a group of students taking a law class.
We need to know about Clarence Darrow and some of his more famous cases.
Okay, I know that Clarence Darrow was a famous lawyer. What were some of his most famous cases?
He was famous for the Eugene Debs case and the Loeb Leopold case and the Scopes trial.
He was also famous for his part in resolving a coal strike.
Okay, let's go over each of these cases and make sure we understand them. The first one was the Eugene Debs case in 1895. Darrow defended Debs, who was the president of the Railroad Workers Union, after the railroad workers went on strike.
Wasn't the strike by the railroad workers called the Pullman strike?
Yes, it was. It was named after the Pullman, which was a type of railroad car.
The next situation was the Pennsylvania coal strike in 1902. Clarence Darrow was asked by the President of the United States to arbitrate the coal strike.
So, this wasn't actually a trial. It was an arbitration.
That's true. Now, there are two other trials we need to know about. The Loeb-Leopold trial and the Scopes trial.
The Loeb-Leopold trial was in 1924. This was a very famous murder trial.
And Clarence Darrow was the defense attorney in this trial?
Exactly.
Now, the last case we need to be familiar with is the Scopes trial, but I don't know much about that.
The Scopes trial in 1925, also known as the Scopes monkey trial, was about evolution, about whether humanity evolved from monkeys.
And who was Scopes?
Scopes was a high school biology teacher who was charged with breaking the law because he taught evolution in school.
And Clarence Darrow was the defense attorney in this trial?
Yes, he was.
I think we've covered the information we need to know about Darrow. We know about 3 of the trials in which he served as defense attorney.
And we also know about the strike he helped to arbitrate.
Listen to a discussion in a physiology class.
Now, we're going to review the information on various types of fractures, or broken bones. Yesterday, we talked about 3 types of fractures. Do you remember what they were? Claire?
They were simple, compound, and green stick fractures.
Yes, exactly. Now, can you tell me how a simple fracture and a compound fracture differ? Are they different because of the number of fractures? Dave?
No. The difference between a simple and a compound fracture refers to how much damage there is to the tissue around the broken bone, rather than the number of breaks in the bone. In a simple fracture, the bone is broken, but there's little damage to the tissue around the bone. In a compound fracture, the bone is broken and there's a lot of damage to the tissue around the broken bone.
So, how much tissue damage is there in a compound fracture? Gail?
A lot. In a compound fracture, the broken bone actually comes through the skin.
So when we talk about the difference between a simple and a compound fracture, this doesn't refer to the number of breaks in a bone. Instead, it refers to the amount of tissue damage. How do we refer to the number of breaks in a bone? Claire?
To talk about the number of breaks in a bone, we talk about a single, a double, or a multiple break. A single fracture means 1 break, a double fracture means 2 breaks, and a multiple fracture means more than 2 breaks.
Okay, I hope this distinction's clear, that we talk about single, double, and multiple fractures to refer to the number of fractures, and simple and compound fractures to refer to how much tissue damage there is around the break. Now, we have just one more type of fracture to discuss, and that's the green stick fracture. Dave, can you tell me who generally suffers from green stick fractures?
Green stick fractures are usually found in children.
That's true. And what is a green stick fracture? Gail?
A green stick fracture means that the bone bends, and maybe it breaks part of the way, but it doesn't break all the way through. The name green stick refers to a young green plant that might bend instead of breaking.
So, is a green stick fracture a very serious fracture? Claire?
No, a green stick fracture is usually the least serious type of fracture because the bone isn't broken all the way through. The compound fracture, where the broken bone comes through the skin, is the most serious type of fracture.
Most people think weight loss is about willpower and discipline, but the science tells us something shocking. Diet and exercise combined only account for 25% of success.
That's such an eye-opening statistic. What makes up the other 75%?
Well, here's where it gets interesting. Another 25% comes down to quality sleep, but the biggest factor, at 50%, is simply following through on what you say you'll do. And there's actually a scientific way to make that follow through almost automatic.
You know, that reminds me of how temporary motivation can be. Like when someone sees a super fit person at the gym and gets inspired.
Exactly. That inspiration typically crashes within 24 hours. That's why you need concrete, measurable goals. Instead of saying, I want to get in shape, you need something specific like, I'm going to lose 5 pounds by July 1st.
But setting the goal isn't enough, right? There's something about environment setup that's crucial.
Let me give you a perfect example. Say someone wants to swap their usual sugary breakfast for something healthier, like a morning jog followed by strawberries and boiled eggs. Sounds simple, but here's the key. You have to make the healthy choice the easiest choice.
So it's about removing barriers before they become excuses.
Right. You need those eggs boiled the night before, fresh strawberries ready to go, running clothes laid out. Because if that jar of peanut butter is the first thing you see in the morning, well, we know how that story ends.
That's fascinating about willpower being a finite resource. You can't just rely on motivation alone.
And this is where the magic happens, turning conscious choices into unconscious habits. When you automatically go for that morning jog without internal debate, that's when real change occurs. Studies show it takes about 66 days to form a new habit.
The transformation from effort to automatic behavior must be incredible to witness.
Speaking of transformation, let's talk about something often overlooked: progress tracking. Your body actually starts losing fat from places you can't immediately see, which is why the scale can be misleading. Water weight alone can cause 5-pound fluctuations daily.
That explains why weekly averages are more reliable than daily weigh-ins.
And here's another misconception. Those online calorie calculators telling you to eat 2,000 calories? They can be way off. Hormones like cortisol and thyroid function can dramatically affect metabolism.
So, what's the alternative to strict calorie counting?
Focus on food quality rather than just numbers. When you eat whole, minimally processed foods, your body naturally regulates portion sizes. Here's a mind-blowing comparison. 200 calories of Oreos is about 2 cookies, while 200 calories of strawberries is an entire bowl.
That volume difference really puts things in perspective.
And here's something else people overlook: the impact of non-exercise movement. Activities like taking stairs, cleaning, or even fidgeting can burn hundreds of extra calories daily. Research shows these small movements can account for up to 2,000 calories difference between two people of similar size.
That really makes this whole journey more approachable.
Let's talk about sleep too. Poor sleep increases hunger hormones by up to 15% and decreases metabolism. Yet so many people trying to lose weight completely ignore this aspect.
It's amazing how interconnected all these elements are.
The most successful transformations come from people who make small, consistent changes over time. Research shows those who try to overhaul everything at once have a 95% failure rate.
That really explains the cycle of yo-yo dieting we see so often.
When you build this foundation of sustainable habits, weight loss becomes less about willpower and more about living your life in a way that naturally supports your goals. It's about working with your body's systems, not fighting against them.